Get ready, anglers. We're chasing one of the most elusive and hard-fighting fish you'll find on the flats.
That's right, Rick. From sight casting in the Keys to targeting offshore wrecks and reefs across the state, we've got the tips to help you reel in a permit on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
It's good to be back with you all on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. We're your hosts, Brie Gabrielle and Captain Rick Murphy, celebrating this last weekend of May with some permit talk. Right, Rick?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Bree. You know what? The warm, sticky weather is what permit really like, and that's what we have right now. So
yes, we do.
I imagine all of our captains are going to be on fire when it comes to talking about permit in the regions that they have them.
I think so. And what comes to mind, top 5, a most amazing scene I've ever seen was when I was with you in Flamingo and we saw that school of permit come by, and it was just, oh my gosh,
yeah,
I will never forget it.
The drone shots of those fish slurping crabs on the surface.
Amazing. All right, well, at the ready is Captain Mike Holliday in the Alto Equipment East region, who is starting us off with those permit catches around the inlets, out front, and even some giants off the piers. Hello, Mike.
Whoa.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
Like you said, man, they like the heat of the day. Seems like the best fishing's, from noon to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the best permit fishing in my region takes place on the beaches, around the inlets, and on the shallow nearshore wrecks. On the beach, we like to see, we see a lot of fish around the rocks off the condos that are north of Jupiter Inlet and in the St. Lucie Power Plant outflow. And then the Lake Worth and Juneau piers also produce some good fish. The inlet bites are going to be in July when the crabs start flushing out the inlets with the tides. But you'll also find fish year-round around the mouth of Lake Worth Inlet. Doesn't matter what time of year for that spot. And as for wrecks, look at the sand pile off Stewart and some of the shallow wrecks in 40 to 70 feet of water south of Fort Pierce. Between Stewart and Fort Pierce is where you're going to find most of them. For permit, it's pretty hard to beat a live crab or a jumbo live shrimp, either free line on 30-pound fluorocarbon leader and a 3/0 circle hook. If the fish are slurping the baits off the top, you can add some split shot or switch over to a 3/8 ounce jig just to get that bait down a little bit. Average permit region, 12 to 25 pounds, but we get some jumbos, and Captain Jonathan Earhart of Stewart sent me a shot of a jumbo. He caught this fish off a rock pile on a live crab. That's a real one there, boys.
That is.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about the tarpon, bub.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the resident tarpon moving into their summer haunts at the mouth of most inlets and in places like around the Boy Scout camp and the Loxahatchee River, up around Harbor Ridge and the St. Lucie Locks in the St. Lucie River, and then in Big Mud Creek, the Harbor Branch Canal, and the moorings development in the Indian River. Then at the same time, the fish that are pushing out of the Keys are working their way up the coast along the beaches. So inshore, you can target the fish by putting out a live mullet, a pilchard, or a crab, put them out on a 7/0 circle hook, or you can throw small jigs at the rolling fish, like a saltwater assassin Houdini colored 4-inch sea shad. And then on the beach, a live crab, a pilchard, or a threadfin is going to be the most popular baits. Average tarpon in our region is 60 to 100 pounds. And Captain Ed Zayak at Jensen Beach, he's been getting the tarpon at the St. Lucie Power Plant. The fish he sent me a photo of ate a live crab.
Nice. All right, let's go offshore, bub.
Yeah, cold water upwellings really slowed down the dolphin bite over the holiday weekend. But now that we got that south wind again, water's getting back to normal. We've seen some nice fish, mostly small dolphin pushing right now, particularly later in the day after the wind picks up. The most consistent bite's been around the weed lines in 60 to 200 feet of water. There's also been some nice weed mats pushing in. The key's been to find the weeds with flying fish around them or some kind of life. That's where the fish are hanging out. You can target the fish with troll ballyhoo with a pink or green skirt or pull strip baits and feathers if you want to cover a lot of water. Then, when you hook a fish, pitch chunks of ballyhoo to the school fish. A lot of the boats are picking up dolphin while drifting and kite fishing for sailfish. Average dolphin right now is around 10 pounds. And I got a photo from the Salty Days charter boat. They got into a nice dolphin in 525 feet of water yesterday. That fish was on a weed line and it ate a troll ballyhoo. The other bite, the morning and afternoon blackfin tuna bite is back on in Palm Beach and Martin counties. The best morning action seems to be in 200 to 400 feet of water off the Jupiter Ledge and off the St. Lucie humps. And then the afternoon, evening bite seems to be better off the breakers or out on Push Button Hill. Target to fish with live pilchards, sardines, threadfins, goggle eyes. You can either slow troll or drift them or put them up on a kite. In the middle of the day, you can mark the fish, drop down a bait on 3 to 4 ounces of lead, or jig them up using a jigging spoon. A lot of guys are doing really well with jigging spoons right now. Average tuna, 12 and 25 pounds, but the fish up to 35 pounds out there. And Captain Charlie Stube at Jupiter, he sent me a shot of a jumbo blackfin tuna. They got that in 300 feet of water drifting live sardines.
Man, the East region's putting out some jumbos. What about a jumbo bass report, Mike?
Yeah, water levels are down to 11 feet, a little below 11 feet on Lake Okeechobee. So you really need to wear a life jacket anytime you're running because there's a lot of submerged obstacles out there. I was talking to Captain Nathan Shellen of OkeechobeeBassFishing.com. He said the low water levels has the fish concentrated in open water areas offshore, as well as in the rim ditch, the dynamite holes, and the Kissimmee River. On the lake proper, you want to start your, be on the water at dawn, start the day running like a quarter mile to a half mile offshore, and then just shut down and start looking for bass busting shad. Once you find them, you can throw a chrome and blue lipless crankbait or a white spinner bait or any of the shad colored, Bass Assassin split tail or boot tail baits. Once the shad bite dies off, it's time to work a Texas rig, blank check, or June bug colored RSB worm. Look around the isolated grass paths. That's where the biggest fish are going to come from. And then in the canals, start your day throwing frogs or prop baits, then switch over to a bluegill flash colored elite shiner or boss shiner. The bluegills are bedding right now. Bass are around the beds as well in the deeper areas. The action's fast early, slows in the heat, but it's a 20 fish morning. Average bass 1 to 3 pounds, and they're catching them up to about 9 pounds on Lake O right now.
Man, that was a very thorough start to the night show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you covering your region so well, bud.
Go get them, guys.
All right, man, thank you so much. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the TH Marine hotspots from the East region. Mike says inshore, snook and tarpon after dark. On the sea, on the 25-cent bridge in Stewart, live mullets, crabs, and black shad color saltwater assassin Artemis shad. Lures was gonna work for those big tarpon and snooks. And then offshore, kingfish on the ledge off of Jupiter, live sardines, goggle eyes, blue runners on a triple hook monofilament rig. I see when
always
relaxed.
see in the sea.
No, but in South Florida, all the canals are see this, see that.
Okay.
And
I got it.
word association, we're talking about
I got
bass,
you,
so it's
I
the
got you.
C25.
I'm here for you.
All right.
Okay, we've seen nice permit catches coming from the Phillips and Jordan Southwest region over the last few weeks, so let's hear what we need to do to continue catching them with Captain Ronnie Houston. Hi, Ronnie.
Well, like you've mentioned, Bree, the Phillips and Jordan Southwest region, I have mentioned how good the permit bite's been the last 3 weeks. But you know what? To catch permit, you can catch them throughout the whole region. And you want to start concentrating in late winter through early fall, and that's going to depend on water temps. So in late winter, once it starts to warm up, that permit bite will pick up. And then as it turns into fall, once it starts cooling down, that permit bite's going to start to slow down. So you're going to get a good 3 to 5 months of a good permit fishing in the Southwest region. But like I said, you want to concentrate on fishing wrecks, towers, and artificial reefs, as well as large fish moving through on migration. Now, the permit can be caught sight casting in different areas of the wall and column and around the structure. Now, the baits can be free-lined, or you want to just use enough weight to get to the depth of the fish, and you can use a variety of baits that can be used. The number one is going to be the crabs. That's what a lot of guys concentrate on using. But at times, the permit can be picky, so you might want to have a dozen live shrimp with you. Always carry some artificial, like bright-colored bucktails, and guys can get out there and catch them on fly. So there's a variety of ways you can catch them through the region. Like I've mentioned in the last 3 weeks, and I got a nice another picture this week of a permit that was recently caught while fishing on one of the offshore wrecks.
That's a big one.
Still on the offshore side, we're going to go a little different this week. Something that's overlooked a lot is the mangrove snappers. Now, you can concentrate right now from Marco to Fort Myers Beach in a variety of ways and a variety of depths. You can fish wrecks and artificial reefs, and most noted structure near shore or out to depths of about 100 feet. Once you get in some of those areas, you can use box chum. You can also chum live pilchards, or you can even use, once you get these fish up, live pinfish, depending upon where you draw the fish up in the water column. Now, once you get them around you, depending upon where they are, flatlining them, you can use 1/8 ounce to 1/4 ounce troll rights. Or right now, a lot of guys are catching them using tricking rigs off the bottom. But the last reports I have received, chumming live pilchers has been working best. And I've got a picture that some fish that were recently caught of some snappers. But if you look in that picture, while they were out snapper fishing, and I do mention this when guys are bottom fishing, they had a flatline pilchard out, an old 70-pound wahoo came up, ate the pilchard, so not only did they get snappers and groupers, but he got him a 70-pound wahoo.
He sure did. Let's go.
Shore side, the tarpon. Now, that bite continues to be strong throughout the region, from the outer Gulf Islands south, and from the beach line out to 20 feet of water from Marco to Boca Grande. That's going to include passes and bridge spans. Now, this also happens day or night, and believe it or not, you can find zones to yourself. I keep saying that. Putting in the time and scanning the horizon, because I've been running a lot of areas here in the last few days and fishing in areas where there are not anybody fishing and there's plenty of tarpon. I'm not tarpon fishing, I'm snook fishing. The water's crystal clean, the water's nice, and there's tarpon all over the place. Now, once you find these fish, live crabs, live pinfish, herring, free-lined or under a cork, or you can use simple artificials, 5-inch, 8-inch, and a variety of flies. And I got a picture of a near-shore bite while fishing with On a Mission Fishing Charters out of Naples. Nice tarpon release at the boat. Last species is going to be the snook bite. Now, this bite's starting to heat up throughout the whole region. These fish are starting to move to the beaches, the passes, and the bridge spans. Now, there's also good time, nighttime bite along the intercoastal docks and seawalls. There's a variety of ways you can catch them right now. In all cases, you're going to want good moving water is going to be the key. Beaches right now can be a little tough because we've got clear water, but we are starting to get some rain, which is going to change the clarity of the water, which might make the beach fishing a little easier. Live pinfish and pilchards, free line or knocker rig, soft plastic shrimp, and 4-inch bass assassin sea shads in the darker water with the cleaner water. Berkeley J. Walker 120s, your jukes and stick shads and pilchard, and always 1/2 ounce and 3/4 ounce gold and silver spoons. I got a nice picture of a fish that was just caught in one of the passes while fishing with Captain Chris McCubbin out of Naples. He's a live pilchard. Temperatures are getting right. Seas are calming down, guys. Fish are starting to heat up all through the region.
Ronnie, I got a question for you. When the afternoon sea breezes kick in, which primarily is blowing south or southwest out of that Chokoloskee to Marco, what do you do after it starts blowing onshore like that?
So what I try to do is concentrate on this. If I'm fishing further south, I'll try to move in a little further, especially if I have lower water. I'll get into the bites. The wind isn't going to really affect that. It messes up the water a little bit, but just enough so the fish don't notice it. And as I'm up towards Goodland, that west wind picks up. I move into the middle bays. I get on some of the lee sides. Plenty of fish around. I don't like fishing that a lot, but you will get plenty of shots in the middle bays once that wind heats up.
All right, bud. Thank you so much for answering that question. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the southwest Phillips and Jordan region. He says inshore redfish, Bull Bay, Turtle Bay, Pine Island Sound, fishing the deeper mangrove shorelines at high water using pilchards, live pinfish, cut mullet, and ladyfish. And then offshore, the red groupers can be fished throughout the whole region, 85 to 110 feet, using slow pitch jigs, bucktails, and some cut bait.
Water, because coming up we're seeing what our Keys captain Ridge, Murphy, and Rick have for rigs and techniques at the CCA workbench when it comes to catching up with a permit. Hey gentlemen, you think you can help us out with that?
Reggie, you always say I'm crabby, but tonight we're taking an exception.
Whole nother level.
Whole nother level of crabbiness. And then we're casting our lines into the Casa Vieja Southeast region with Captain Jimbo Thomas. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. ACR. Less search, more rescue. Scientific Anglers. Failure is not an option. Penn. Let the battle begin. Berkeley Pro Spec Chrome. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
So we're here at the CCA workbench. Time for the rigs and techniques. Guess what, guys? We're talking about two of our favorite species. I mean, our two favorite species.
Yeah, the permit, man. Old rubber lips.
Yeah. So, Ridge, first off, I want to start off by telling everybody at home that's watching that we're going to talk about two different scenarios, guys. We're going to be talking about fish that are on the flats, very shallow water, fly fishing, jig fishing, also fishing with live bait. And then we're going to talk about fishing structure, whether it's on a deep reef in the Atlantic or something in the Gulf. So let's start off first by sight fishing them on the flats, Ridge.
You know, sight fishing for them, the easiest way to catch a permit, they cannot say no to a crab. It's the most overrated fish when it comes to it. And the key is you just got to hit them in the face.
Yeah.
They don't know how to say no. And what you want to do is you're going to take the corner of the crab and just slowly kind of work it through, kind of guide it through, and then just wiggle the hook, and it pinches right out, just like that.
So that's an eagle claw.
It's a
L702G, and it comes in 5.0s, 3.0s, 4.0s, a variety of different sizes. Let me have that, please, Bob.
You'll hear it in my report a lot too. We talk about matching the hook size to the actual or the bait. And so on a bigger crab like this, you would use closer to a 5.0. You can use a 3.0. And so you really just want to match that hook size to your actual bait itself. So
yeah, that's exactly right. Now, where do we make a mistake, Ridge, on these permit on the flats?
Over leading them. A lot of people put these fish on the flats on a pedestal. It's very intimidating. He's tailing. He's doing all this crazy cool permit things. If you hit him in the face, you don't give him the option to say no. You got to feed him or forget him. And so what a lot of people do is they lead him 15 feet or 10 feet, and he doesn't race over there. Sometimes he will with a crab, but with a fly or a jig, he gives them too much time to say no. So you really want to just be aggressive with them, take the Jack Crevalle out of them, and make him eat it.
Yeah, throw it in his face, because he's got to make a decision. Is he going to eat it, or is he going to allow it to get into the bottom into the grass?
Yep.
All right, so Ridge, now, if we're fishing inshore, what rod and reel are we going to use
This
there?
is a Fenwick, a world-class, medium-fast, 7'6" spinner.
Right.
Paired with the 4,000 Authority, and and you hear me talk about this in my reports a lot. It's a great rod, all-round rod for sight fishing. It has a super, super light tip, but enough backbone to where, okay, we can pull on these fish and get them away from the sharks, because the sharks are bad.
Yeah, 7.6, and then we're loading it up with what size Prospect Chrome?
15-pound Prospect Chrome and a 25-pound to 30-pound leader.
All right, now, if we are fishing off of one of the reefs in Isla Morada, so to speak.
Yep.
Even
the
140 feet deep.
Mm-hmm. A lot of guys are using anywhere from ½ ounce all the way to 1.5 ounces sometimes. You want to sink it down, throw it out in front of them, let it sink down to them, and you just want to kind of feed it like you were yellowtail fishing. All of a sudden, it's going to change its pace. That's when he eats it. You close the bail, start reeling your slack, boom, you're on.
Yeah, the thing is, guys, here's what's going to happen. You're going to pull up there, you're going to put your Rodan in, you're going to be up current of the structure, or you're going to anchor, whichever it is. They rise into your chum, and they do a drive-by shooting. This is not when you can sight cast to them. Most of the time, you've got to actually throw the crab, let it get in that chum.
Sometimes you'll even mark them on your sonar. You can just sink it down to them.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot.
So I want to ask you, Ridge, there's something little trick that you did here. If we look real close, you see that there's a black rubber band that's going around this crab's carapace.
Yeah.
What is that?
So when your crabs start getting the eggs, you try to find the crabs that don't have the eggs. You try to pick all the males out, but there are times where you can't get them, and this will start flapping open. If you keep this shut, and all you gotta do is just put the rubber band around it. If you keep it shut, the lifespan of that crab's gonna be a lot longer. You can make a lot more casts with him.
Yeah, and it casts a lot better without that flap. That flap is not aerodynamic.
Absolutely.
Okay, one other thing that we like to do is I want to point out to people, when you guys go to buy a jig for this particular application, you can see the difference. This has no barb. So what'll happen is if you're fishing with a shrimp, throwing a permit, or even a crab, a lot of times the weight of the jig will punch through the carapace and it falls off.
Yep. That's a great soft plastic jig head, but not a good bait fishing jig.
So when you do go to buy your jigs, guys, make sure you get one with a permasteel type of hook with a big barb. Look at how big this barb is in reference to the little jig head itself. Keep that in mind. And remember, guys, anytime that you're permit fishing up shallow, fly or jig or crab, be aggressive, throw it in his face, and then don't move it. Let it dive, and he'll commit.
Eats it on the fall.
Man, you did a good job over here.
Trying.
And
All
don't
right.
forget the little lap band trick. Love
That's
that
right.
one.
That's
All right,
right.
our Costa Vieja Lodge Southeast Region Captain Jimbo Thomas is ready to wow us with some of his permit tips. So Jimbo, it's your time to shine. Go for it.
Okay. Hey, Bree, Rick, and Ridge. You know, most fishermen think of permit as an inshore fish that are just only found on the flats, but there's plenty of them caught on the offshore reefs and wrecks, just like you guys are talking about. Now, regardless of where you're fishing them, they can be caught year-round. And then in the spring, around the full moons of March and April, those permit will school up to spawn offshore on those wrecks. And that's when you're fishing those jigs to get them down deep, anywhere from 50 to 150 feet of water. And on calm days, you can spot them flashing or mooning up near the surface. Then they're also commonly caught off the beaches and in the inlets throughout the region. But by far, most popular way to hunt those permit is on the flats. Now, when the wind blows and it's pushing in that sargassum weed, the permit are usually found around the edges of the flats and channels, and they're feeding on the small crabs and shrimp that are holding in that seaweed. You can hear them popping in the seaweed sometimes. And then when the wind drops off and that weed doesn't get pushed into the bay, that's when it's best to look for them tailing, mudding, or just cruising on those flats. You want to look for flats with hard bottom that holds crabs, sea urchins, and other crustaceans that they're feeding on. And regardless of where the permit are, best bait by far is a live silver dollar sized crab. And very rarely will a permit pass up a crab if you get it right up on his nose, again, like you guys are talking about. Also, live shrimp, pink, 1/8 to quarter-ounce skimmer jigs, and crab pattern flies are great baits. Now, the ideal permit fishing day, on the flats at least, is light wind in the morning to fish those permit that are pushing wakes and finning, and then have the wind pick up to about 12 miles an hour in the afternoon. And when that wind kicks up, it allows for some improved sight fishing with less glare. And lately, permits, they've been found on the inside and outside flats from Soldiers Key south to Angelfish Creek. You want to fish the hard bottom oceanside flats, anywhere from 2 to 4 feet of water. And then around the Ragged Keys, there's been schools of 7 to 12-pound permit, and the incoming tides have been best. And then staying inshore, tarpon fishing is in full swing in all of the inlets, creeks, and bridges of the ICW. Live crabs, mullet, neutral swimming plastic baits, and flies have all been working depending on where you're fishing at. When you're using live baits, you want to use circle hooks in the 4 to 8/0 range. Try to match your hook to the size of the bait. Then in the inlets and around the bridges, the fish have been biting on both tides in the evening, with the outgoing tide being the best. And then around the bridges, you want to fish the shadow lines on the outgoing tide. There's also been some tarpon off the beaches on both the north and south sides of Government Cut and also all the other cuts in the region. The fish have been in the 60 to 100-pound range, and early evening bite has been the best. Now, moving offshore, one of our best fishing has been along the edge of the Gulf Stream, where blackfin tunas have still been biting. Anywhere from 120 to 200 feet of water is where you want to fish. Look for blue water and north current. Best baits have been live pilchards and herrings. You want to fish them under the kite or on flat lines. Go down on your leader a little bit, 30 to 40-pound fluoro leader, 4/0 to 6/0 hooks, circle hooks. Most of the blackfins have been anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds. I'd say about 25-pound average, so nice-sized fish. They've been biting throughout the day, but first thing in the morning and then late in the afternoon from around 3 o'clock till sunset has been when they're going to bite the best. Like always, if you can get some pilchards to chum with, that'll definitely help get those fish up. Got a photo here. This is a nice blackfin caught by Chris Bernardi. He was kite fishing off Elliott Key over the weekend.
Nice.
And then in the same basic areas as the tunas, maybe a little shallower, 90 to 150 foot range, there have been some nice kingfish being caught. We've been using the same rig as for the tunas, but just adding a 12 to 18-inch piece of number 3 to 5 wire leader. So if we keep getting cut off on our mono rigs, we're going to put a little wire leader, try and catch those kings. Like pilchards, herrings, and sardines, fish them under the kite or on the drift. That's been getting plenty of bites, as well as the baits fish on a mid-depth. You can put a little sinker on, get your bait down a little deeper. Or you can try trolling 3.5 drone spoons or a pink sea witch with a bonita strip behind a planer, number 2 to number 4 planer, or a wire line outfit. The trick is to get your bait down deep. That's where you can get those king bites. Most of the kings have been anywhere in the 8 to 20 pound range, and I did hear of one up to 50 pounds caught in the last week. So there are some nice ones out there. Got another photo here. This is Zach Salyers with a nice king he caught on a live bait off Fowey Light.
All right, thank you for all the pictures this week. Jimbo, we're gonna take a look at the ACR hotspots from the Southeast region. Jimbo says that inshore, get on the flats early and cast live crabs or shrimp, the tailing, bonefish, and permit. And then offshore, look for the blackfin tunas, sailfish, kingfish, and mahis, fishing live baits along the edge of the Gulf Stream, guys.
All right, hey y'all, if you're dreaming of blue water and big game, then listen up. The 44th annual Key West Marlin Tournament is set for July 23rd through the 26th during the heart of the legendary Key West Hemingway Days in Key West, Florida. Last year's tournament reeled in a whopping $268,000 in cash payouts from the Marlin and Funfish divisions. So bring your crew, bring the family, Key West is calling. Make sure you get all the details and lock in your spot now at keywestmarlin.com. But Rick,
yes,
this just in, so please permit me to tell you about the opening weekend of the CCA Florida Star presented by Yamaha.
Please.
Okay. There was a star tagged redfish caught in the Panhandle. Ready? But no, they were not registered.
Oh, no.
And no, they were not a CCA member.
Oh, no.
So all of the boats are still available to Carolina Skiff, E24 DLX, Seabourn 22LX Spider, 19FX Vapor, and Microdraft Skiff are all up for grabs. I know you can still register for the competition and can enter any fish you catch this summer in one of the 9 divisions that include inshore and offshore species, lots of spots and youth entries. So any permit you catch could win you a share of $500,000 in prizes or scholarships. He's so sad. Are you okay? No. Go to ccfostar.com to learn more and to register and
It's
be a
not
member.
hard, guys.
If you're fishing, just do it.
Yes.
You could win stuff.
You
Who doesn't
will.
want to win stuff?
Promise.
All right, coming up, we're sight casting into the Black Oak LED Keys region and then headed to the Startron Central West region to tickle your permit fancy with Captain Jeff Page. We'll be back.
Right on, right on, right on.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, Your Fish, Our Science, Bahio, Blue Light Blocking, Radically Clear Polarized Fishing Sunglasses, Guy Harvey, every purchase helps support the health of our oceans and marine life. Penn, let the battle begin. Kubota, together we do more. And Heroes on the Water, paddle, fish, heal.
So you know, Bree,
Yes.
continuing to give back from CCA, we did an Adopt a Redfish program, adding more fish into Biscayne Bay. Let's take a look.
Let's see it.
We are here for Adopt a Redfish Biscayne Bay edition. So thank you, number one, for everybody for coming out today. And thank you for those that are in attendance that adopted one of these fish. We've got 115 tagged redfish. They all have what's called it's like a spaghetti tag. The fish range in size between 15 inches and 19 inches.
So you know, Bree, the one thing that was really cool is the Bergeron Family Foundation was there, Diamond was there, and as well as Lonnie.
Oh, look at the kitties.
And there's Lonnie there. But what was so neat is that they bought a redfish that had 13 spots on him. And so, excuse me, what was so neat about that is that they bought that at the Homestead Banquet, but they were actually able to watch this redfish swim off. Everybody that showed up and bought a fish, they received an Adopt a Redfish t-shirt, plus they're gonna actually have any information if the fish is caught, then people report back to them.
Oh,
Hopefully, it says on the tag, guys, if you catch him, please release him so we can continue to collect that data. What I love about it most is that we have all these next generation, these little kids there helping us, and the FWC who's going to protect those fish in the Biscayne Bay.
Becoming
it.
Becoming a part of it.
The whole
next
community's
generation. And speaking of the next generation, let's welcome back our Black Oak LED Keys Region Captain Ridge Murphy, who is here to give his report live in the studio.
Yeah.
Go for it, Ridge.
There you go, Reggie.
Permit are one of the big 3 species here in the Keys. A Grand Slam consists of a bonefish, tarpon, and of course a permit. Permit can be extremely challenging, but also user-friendly depending on how you choose to target these fish. Live baits like small crabs or candy for permit, and they make it really hard for them to refuse it. They will also eat jigs on a spinning rod, and for the mentally unstable, you can throw flies to permits. It's extremely challenging, but probably the hardest fish to catch on fly down here in the Keys. The cool thing about permits is that they can be targeted in many different ways here in the Black Oak LED region. From big schools year-round on the Gulf side wrecks, but also late spring and early summer on the wrecks in the Atlantic offshore. They also tail in singles and pairs on the flats from Key Largo to Key West, and anglers can travel from all over the world to come to the Keys and catch permit. And if you're planning a trip, I would suggest to look into getting a guide down in the middle to lower Keys closer to Key West. A good rod and reel setup is a 7'6" Fenwick world-class medium-fast rod with 10-pound Berkeley braided line on your Penn Authority 4000 with 15 to 25-pound fluorocarbon leader, an eagle claw circle hook, and a crab. For the ones that are like a little extra challenge, a 9 or 10 weight Hardy fly rod with a clear magnitude scientific angler fly line to keep it nice and stealthy. You're gonna hit them in the face to bring the jack out of them and feed them or forget them. And I have a nice photo of my wife Santana and her brother David with David's personal best permit.
Nice. All right, what else you got for us?
With the nice weather that we've been having over this past week, guys are venturing offshore looking for mahi-mahis. I spoke to Captain Andy Thompson, and he says that the mahis were close in 650 feet of water and lots of schoolies. The cool part is they went offshore in a skiff and actually caught them. Look for mahis under birds and weed lines, and you're gonna throw live baits like cigars and pilchards on an eagle claw, live bait J-hook on 40 to 50-pound leader on a Penn spinning rod. If you're looking to venture further offshore or further west, there should be some bigger fish, and remember to have an R&R D-hooker ready to shake off the smaller fish and release them back into the water for a higher survival rate and keep the rods in rotation. If you're in a school of fish that looks too small, move on to the next school. There's plenty of fish out there, and I have a photo of Wesley Lott fishing with Captain Andy Thompson out of their flats boat with a nice schoolie that they caught on fly.
Nice.
Fun.
All right.
The ocean tarpon fishing is as good as it gets right now. Tarpon are swimming all over the Keys for migratory fish, headed to the up-and-coming worm hatch to the bridge gathering mullet eaters. Anglers and guides are targeting tarpon on fly using Hardy 11-weight rods with scientific angler lines, anchoring or staking out in 3 to 10 feet of water in the white sand strips, high current areas in the middle and lower Keys. For the spin anglers, you can anchor on the upcurrent sides of the bridges and drift mullets and crabs under a cork with a 5.0 to 8.0 eagle claw billfish circle hook with 40 to 60-pound fluorocarbon leader on a Fenwick world-class heavy and extra heavy rod. I have a photo of a tarpon that was caught by my angler, Elizabeth Johnson, during the Golden Fly Tarpon Tournament last week.
Nice job. All right, 1 to go. What do you got, Bubby?
To finish out our Grand Slam, we've talked about permit, we've talked about tarpon, let's talk about bonefish. Look for the gray ghost up on the flats on the low incoming waters of the middle and lower Keys. Pull with the current and look for the fish mudding and tailing, waking up on the flats. Use 8-pound 9X Berkeley braided line on your Penn Authority spinning reel with a live shrimp or small pink and tan jigs. You can also target these fish with Hardy fly rods, 8-weight to 9-weight with scientific angler magnitude bonefish taper. And I have a photo sent in by Captain Rick Murphy with Travis from Taco Marine with his first bonefish caught in Key Largo.
How about that?
Dang,
Old
Travis.
Pops making an appearance. What do
Still
you
got
say?
Still got it.
All right, let's take a look at the scientific angler hotspots. My man Ridge says inshore migrational tarpon on the ocean side, anchor or stake out in 3 to 10 feet of water on a white sand strip. Target the silver kings with the Hardy fly rod and a scientific angler fly line and with 30 to 40 pound fluorocarbon leader. And then offshore, schoolie mahis from 650 feet of water out to 1,100 feet. Look for the mahis under the birds and debris. Have your R&R D hooker ready to shake them off. If they're too small, You can let them go or put them in the fish box. Use the D-hooker to do your dirty stuff.
Exactly.
That's
All right.
it.
Well, Ridge said you still got it. So dive her down.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. You forgot that one, though.
She got me.
Speaking of dive, let's dive on in and
It's
see
been
what
2 years since she
tournaments
diver down me.
are going in on the Florida Keys. Going on the Florida Keys. You're messing me up. First, anglers contend for cash prizes and awards, including $10,000 for the first place boats June 6th through the 8th at the 32nd Annual Lower Key Chamber of Commerce Dolphin Tournament. Then is the 39th Annual Father's Day Dolphin Derby, taking place June 13th for registration and fishing on June 14th in Marathon, with cash prizes awarded to the top 4 adults based on largest dolphin by weight and rod and reel combos to the top 3 junior anglers. Next, we have the University of Miami Sports Hall of Fame Celebrity Fishing Tournament set for June 19th through the 22nd in Isla Mirada, with notable sports personalities in attendance. Cash prizes are on tap for the top 3 teams catching the highest combined weight of 3 mahi-mahi. And last is a winner-take-all grand prize of up to $25,000 to be awarded to the team that posts the highest aggregate weight of 3 mahi-mahi after the June 25th through 26th Isla Mirada Fishing Club Captain's Cup Dolphin Tournament. For more information on Keys tournaments, go to flakeys.com. But you know what, Rick? Permit are always making their way into the StarTron Central West region.
Yes.
So let's see where Captain Jeff Page is sending us to find them.
Yes, they are. And in the StarTron Central West region, that permit can be a year-round residence, provided we don't have a really cold winter. And that pretty much was the story, other than that week or two in December. The permits started showing up right after January, and now it's at like peak season. It's not uncommon to get out in 70 feet of water and find them, but they like it a little deeper, at least the bigger fish do. And in as close as 30 feet, most of your artificial reefs and structures that are out there in the Gulf, which all the FWC websites have the actual coordinates to these reefs. They're not secret. And there's a lot of permit on them this time of year with the east winds in the morning, Rick. Look for them up on top. And live crabs have been the best bait. And the cool thing about that, with these outgoing tides we've had, every afternoon you can go out and dip a few dozen crabs. No problem for your tarpon fishing and for your permit fishing. We've got a really nice permit photo tonight of Randy and Bill. I don't have their last names, but they fish a lot with Captain Will Osborne out of Cortez, Florida, with a pair of really nice permits. Staying offshore, red snapper. Guys did real well in the opening mini season, which was like a 4-day window this past weekend. Guys did real well getting their limit. They were out in at least 150 feet of water, on out, live pinfish, pilchards, thread fins, and the fish, Rick, were holding on ledges and big hard bottom areas from Venice north of St. Pete. Big chunk of ladyfish also worked, but the standard bottom rig with a 7.0 Trocor circle hook got the job done. And I've got a really cool photo tonight from jig master Derek Engel with a big American red he got jigging.
All right.
Moving tarpon fishing remains #1 sought. I heard Ridge talking about it. And this week, the afternoon outgoing tides, Boca Grande Pass to Egmont Pass, dip your crabs and get out there and get in the lineup, get in the drift, and you're going to hook tarpons early morning on the sandbars with the fly. And my tarpon photo tonight is of K-Mac with a nice tarpon he got with Captain Stacy Caps. Last species snook. The nighttime bite has been so good, Rick. I think you're going to have to do a Sportsman Adventures with the Mad Snooker one time. He's been catching 40 to 50 snook a night on the outgoing tides from Venice Jetty north to Albee Bridge using silver mullet and live ladyfish. And my last photo tonight is of a happy pair of guys with a big snook they got with Dave Parmalu, Mad Snooker.
Paige, you went through your report so fast. I do have a couple questions for you. You know, what's the big mistake that guys make while they're fishing those tarpon on the beach? Let's talk a little bit about etiquette.
Etiquette, cranking up the big motors and racing up ahead of the fish. If the fish are going that fast, you let them go and you look for a new bunch.
All right, so then you'd use your trolling motor to slide in there in front of them and let them come to you, right?
You let them come to you, and if there is a man there, That man's not going to leave. Go ahead and let him have a shot first. There's going to be plenty of shots, and if you know that tarpon better than any of us. If they're going to bite, they're going to bite.
That's right. So when you're throwing, you're using an 8-foot rod, I'm sure, loading up with probably 20 or 40 or 65-pound braid. Which is it?
Probably 40 or 50.
Okay.
Be like.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. I do have to get to the Daiquiri Deck hotspots from the Central West region. Appreciate it tonight there, Captain Page. Tarpon, fish the afternoon outgoing tide at Boca Grande Pass, Big Pass, Egmont Pass with live crabs for good new moon tarpon action. And then offshore, the permit are holding in 3 to 7 mile artificial reefs off of Stump Pass, north to Egmont. Live crabs are gonna be your best bait.
Well, as we've heard some of our captains talk about in the past, Mosquito Lagoon is not what it once was. While it's still beautiful, wild, and holds fish, it is no longer the redfish capital of the world as claimed in years past. The lagoon needs help, so please join us for the inaugural Lagoon Again, a one-day fishing tournament benefiting Mosquito Lagoon. For $150 a team, all proceeds will be donated to the Marine Discovery Center in Mosquito Lagoon for habitat restoration projects and education programs. Scan that QR code on the screen for more info and to get registered. But coming up, we've got your favorite father-son duo holding down the Farrell Fort for Taco Marine new products at the CCA workbench. Hey, you two, what'd you bring to the studio today? It was something new over there.
Man, when Dave's away, the two cats, we gonna play, man. We brought in all our favorite toys and we're gonna share them with you guys tonight.
Man, and then we're headed to the reefs and wrecks in the Northeast region with Captain Jeff Hageman. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Abyss Battery, power your pursuit. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. And Black Oak LED, never be left in the dark.
Well, as you can see, it's Tacos Marine trolling the edge, and guess what? We're here, not at the CCA workbench, but we're here at our new toy. Yeah. Why don't you tell me about your new Chitum, Rich?
You know, this is the 18 Chitum. It's a fully carbon Alamorada, 12-degree dead rise. 5-hatch layout, and we paired it up nicely with this Yamaha 150 SHO.
So fully carbon, what does that mean to you? What did it change?
So we got the hull, the cap, the console, and all the hatches are all fully carbon. And what that does is the boat's super, super light and super, super strong. So that's allowing us to run a lot faster and float a lot shallower.
Right. So when it's talking about floating a lot shallower, it allows us to get to those places. Red fishing, now you don't have to have two boats?
Yeah, we went from having two separate boats. I had a technical poling skiff that I charter fished out of strictly, and then I also had another boat that we were fishing just tournaments out of. And with this boat, it's becoming the Swiss Army knife and being able to do literally everything.
So obviously, by looking at the video, we can see how shallow, but Ridge, let's talk about the performance. This boat has a 150 SHO, just like your last boat, which was 18 foot long. What's the difference in speed?
On the last boat's best day, it was a 64-mile-an-hour boat, and you had to do everything you could to keep it straight. This boat's 64-mile-an-hour planted, and we're doing close to the lower 70s right now. We still need to play with props, and we're getting there.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I really appreciate about my 21 Chitum, as well as this one, is the spray rails, Ridge. So let's talk a little bit about what they do.
Chitum did a really good job when they were designing this boat. They integrated all their spray rails, and it starts from the front of the boat, runs all the way to the back. And what it does is it shoots the water up underneath and slaps it down, keeps you from getting wet, and keeps you nice and dry on those long, long tournament day runs.
So let's talk a little bit about the fuel capacity, because if you are in a tournament, a lot of times fuel's a problem.
They paired this boat up nicely with a 32-gallon tank. A lot of their boats standard like that. And it's really, really well balanced. We were a little worried about it with the big motor, but it's a well-balanced boat. It sits nice and perfect where we can float real shallow. But the cool part is with what Chitum does now is they have a venting system in here where not only can we stick the tank and know exactly how much fuel we have in it, This does not lie. It doesn't go bad. It's something that's proven and true and will never be wrong. But it's a venting system also where we can put fuel directly in the boat and it doesn't click for 15, 20 minutes at the gas station, saving us all that time at the end of the day.
And you want to talk about liability. When you think that your tank holds 65 gallons, but it clicks off at 52, man, guys go far. And
we'll use every drop some days, you know, so
Yeah,
you got to have it. Know exactly what you got.
All right, big gunnels, what do you like about them, Ridge?
You can wind up and down the gunnels. Not only that, but it keeps your rods nice and tucked away. Your clients aren't walking up and down kicking the reel handles. But not only that, when there's a problem at the back of the boat, you can run to the back of the boat. Go up to the front of the boat, nice and easy. Nobody's tripping and stumbling.
Yeah, we got rod tubes going forward and aft for fly rods and spinning rods, as well as plug rods. Good job over here, Ridge. We're gonna go ahead and take a few more minutes to look at some of the new products. You know, Heroes in the Water certainly has a great relationship with Seasucker. What I love about this particular item that they have here is that we are able to use this for multi-purpose. As you can see, it's a rod holder, but it's also, we put this a lot of times in the front runner and it'll actually hold our bait nets, so we can move this around. The beautiful thing about the Seasucker products is that as you pump it up and put it on the flat surface, you're just gonna look for this blue ring to disappear, and that way you know it's fully attached. I really like this. I use these quite a bit. We can also pull the pin so that we can allow our rod butts to go all the way down to the bottom of the surface. You can go to Heroes on the Water. Each one of these that is sold, Heroes on the Water gets proceeds from it, from Seasucker. The cool part is that you're supporting what they do, which is helping first responders as well as active and non-active veterans. And don't forget, guys, the families. That's a huge part of it. Last but not least, we're gonna talk about the Scientific Anglers Magnitude Grand Slam Clear Floating Line. What this does is, as you can tell, we have a 9-weight. Let's go over all of this. 9-weight forward floating line. That's what that means. But what SA also does, and I've talked about this last week, is we talk about the different types of textures, and we get a variety of different line weights, what they mean, how long each one of the lengths of lines are, and then the grains of the shooting head. So it gives you an idea how well it's gonna cast. Some rod manufacturers suggest that what we do is we go up. So if this was a 9-weight line, we may put it on an 8-weight. This will give you an idea of what happens, or is it gonna be best just being on an 8-weight? So you can go to scientificanglers.com, find out what this is all about. I love the fact that this is a clear floating tip that explains to me that it's 10 feet long. So we have the regular line, then 10 feet of clear, plus our leader. So you're gonna be about 22 feet from the fly with clear lines. And guess what, Brie? That's not gonna spook anything whatsoever.
Oh, good. And you're just one-man band over there. I love it.
Yeah, man.
Overworking you. All right, if you're planning on finding permit and getting them to the boat in the Northwest region, then listen up for a simple little tip Captain Jeff Hageman has for you. Go for it, Hag.
Permit next to Tarpon, one of my favorite to go target. We got some great permit fishing in the southern half of the region. Big fish usually show up about March, those 30 to 45 pound fish. Got good numbers of them offshore. The schoolies, the 10 to 20 pounders, will be right behind them, usually showing up about the end of March, beginning of April, and they can be as strong as 100 fish strong on those offshore reefs and wrecks. Crabs, dollar-sized crabs, are the best bait. It's hard for a permit to pass up a nice crab dinner just like the rest of us. You want to use anywhere from 25 to 40 pound fluorocarbon leader, depending on your water clarity. A 2/0 to 4/0 trocar circle hook is one of probably the best hooks out there for them. If you're throwing a shrimp and you need a little weight, those hookup jigs, and a 16th or an 1/8 and a hookup jig works really well with a tail hook shrimp. Another good tip for permit fishing, I usually, if I'm on something that's got high relief, on a wreck, it's got a lot of high relief, and then get down in it or get you wrapped up in it, I start off with a little bit lighter drag. And
Usually a permit will make a long straight run for his first run, and if you can let him run away from that wreck, kick your spot lock off your rodan and go chase him down, or throw your anchor ball and go chase him down, and then as soon as you get off the wreck, tighten the drag down, you'll have a whole lot better chance of getting those fish off those high relief structures and chasing them down. And I've got a photo here of a nice West Coast permit.
Nice.
Wow.
All right. What else you got for us, Hag?
Captain Rob Davenport, red snapper just opened this weekend. They gave us a little taste of it. It's been really good. Rob Davenport out of St. Pete reports anywhere from 150 feet to 200 feet. He said get out there early, though. The bite's been slowing down after 10:30 in the morning. So get out there early before the sun comes up and get your red snapper limit before it gets closed out. Seems to be on small ledges right now in bait stacks, knocker rig, 8 ounces of lead, 7/0 trocar circle hook, 80-pound fluorocarbon leader to 100-pound fluorocarbon leader, depending on your depth and your bottom structure you're fishing over. And the bait of choice right now has been cut squid, threadfin herrings, and like I said, don't be afraid when that bite slows down to drop a vertical jig too. And I've got a nice red snapper, the rare red snapper on our coast that we have hundreds of.
Yeah, there you go. All right, what else? Have you heard from Jimmy Huddleston?
I have, but I got James Kerr right now from Crystal River. He reports the redfish bite's been doing good. Redfish are starting to show up with the warmer water temps. Pay attention to the mullet schools in Crystal River right now. That's where the redfish are going to be, and the best way to find them. Shrimp has been his go-to right now, James Kerr, along with spoons. And right now the redfish have been averaging anywhere from 20 to 27 inches. And I got a photo here of a nice Crystal River redfish from Captain James.
Nice. All right, what else you got this week, Hag?
Jimmy Huddleston says that tarpon bite remains strong throughout our region right now. He's been fishing the flats and the beaches out there along Honeymoon and Caladisi. Look for the fish moving closer to the passes. Right now we just had that new moon, so the crabs are still flushing right now on the outgoing tides. The fish are falling out on the tides, so look around the passes, around the beaches, and you'll find those fish. And if you're first thing in the morning, those fish that go offshore are going to be turning around, coming back in the beaches, and coming down the beach line right back to the pass for the afternoon outgoing tide. So that's where you want to look for them. Crabs, thread fins, 7/0 trocar hook, 60 to 80-pound fluoro leader, and 50-pound Prospect Pro Chrome braid in that blue has been working really well in a 50-pound. And I got a photo here of a nice fish that we actually caught on the flat last week.
All right, you did good there, dog. All right, man, thank you for the pictures this week, keeping me straight as I got out of order in your report. But we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Discover Crystal River hotspots. He says inshore, snook along the beaches and in the passes, free line pinfish and sardines. And then if you wanna go offshore, guys, mangrove snappers on a high relief structure in 10 to 70 feet of water. Use a tailhook shrimp or a small pinfish on that knocker rig.
On the knocker. All right, if you're cruising around Florida, do it with the cause and rock the Conserve Florida's Fisheries license plate. Your $25 goes straight to supporting clean water, restoring habitats, protecting marine life, and teaching folks about our coastal environment. Get yours at your local DMV or online at redfishtag.com. But you know, Rick, we've got my two stand-in captain co-hosts coming right up with their reports in the Central East and Northeast region when we circle back. But here's a question.
Yes.
Do you love fishing Florida?
I do.
Well then, stay in the loop. Scan the QR code on your screen to check out our website for full reports. Follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram for daily updates. And subscribe to Captain Rick Murphy on YouTube for new adventures, tips, and tight lines every week. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Startron. Start, run, and store with Startron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, conserving Florida's fisheries since 1985. Frontrunner Boatworks, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. The Florida Keys and Key West, come as you are. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Welcome back, everyone. You know, Rick, even though the Central East region is not known for permit, I still caught one of my biggest with Captain Jim Ross, so it can be done.
That's because you went with Jim.
Exactly. Tell us how it's done, Jim.
Well, that was a fun day for sure, Bree. We'll have to do it again real soon. But, you know, permit aren't the most common species that anglers can target in my region. However, like you just said, they can be found, but in some very specific spots, especially through the summer months. Now, the outgoing tide line at Sebastian Inlet is one of the best places to find crabs flowing out of our Indian River Lagoon, and that's a main food source for the permit. So, you know, those spotted swimming crabs and calico crabs and blue crabs are all flushed out of that inlet, and it's a great zone to find this fish May through September. Now, you want to use a quarter-sized, maybe to even a silver dollar-sized crab, and put it under a float. That keeps it up in the water column, and the permit can find it easier. And then on our inshore wrecks, which is actually where Bree caught one of hers, they hold permit as well through the summer months, and you want to use large shrimp or crab, and we put those on a light jig head to get the crab down in the water column just a little bit, and so that it drifts just above the wreck where the permit like to find it, and they find it pretty quickly most of the time. Now, the average permit in those two locations runs about 15 to 25 pounds, and permit are also available for surf anglers, you know, that are targeting pompano. Now, the smaller permit will often run with those pompano because they're chasing little sand fleas and beaches along the beaches. And so we use a 2-drop or 3-drop surf rig or a shrimp on a jig head or a crab on a jig head and catch some of those fish. And I've got a picture here of one of those little beach permit that we actually caught at Port Canaveral earlier this year.
Nice. That's cool.
Staying offshore, the dolphin bite has been really decent here lately, and it's been kind of shallow, though, 80 to 120 feet. Now, the Space Coast isn't known for a whole lot of big dolphin, and we do have a cold water upwelling that has kind of shifted some things around. So you're going to have to kind of go out there and sniff around a little bit. It's not going to be just plug and play. But anywhere from that 80 to 120 foot depth, and then if you move out to that 180 to about 300 feet, those seem to be the two places that we're finding them right now. And small bubbleheads or a naked chin-weighted ballyhoo seems to be working really well on those little dolphin fish right now. So temperature breaks, weed lines, rips, those are also great places to find them. And most of our dolphin are pretty small. They're running about 4 to 7 pounds on average. And then swinging inshore, the flounder action is increasing up on the near coastal waters and inshore waters of Ponce Inlet. Captain Mark Gibson of Naughty Diver Charter says that he's been getting good numbers of flatfish over the past week, and he expects this to continue all throughout the summer. Live mud minnows on a slide and sinker rig or a jig head or a simple white bucktail seems to be working pretty good. You can tip that with some kind of a live bait if you like as well. And the outgoing tide seems to be better than the incoming if you're fishing inside the inlet. But the flounder are being caught on both tides. And I've got a picture here of Christy Gibson with a nice one that she had the other day.
Nice.
And then we've got snook. And now, you know, snook seem to be our new staple species. I don't know what's going on with this snook bite right now, but it has been excellent. And, you know, there's good numbers of fish at all three inlets. There's also good numbers of fish in much of our backwaters. The oversized fish are preparing to spawn, so please handle them with care if you do catch them. And in the Indian River, we're finding fish to 40 inches and sometimes even bigger by using live croakers or big mullet, 8 to 12-inch mullet. And you want to fish those around channel drop-offs or spoil islands. And, you know, with those big fish, they're really hard to outsmart. So you got to be stealthy. And you need to wade or maybe even pole into position to get shots of these fish. Use like a Penn 6000 Battle or, you know, that new Battle 4 is a great reel for a great price. Or if you have a little more money and you want to get one of those upgrades, but something in that size range because you want to hold some bigger, you know, 40 to 50 pound test braid and about a 40 to 50 pound leader to stop those fish before they can break you off in the structure that they are hanging around. And then I've got a picture here of a nice snook that we put to the boat here just not too long ago.
Jimmy, I did a special request. I asked you about this bass. This is the new KO worm that Bass Assassin has introduced. What's so neat about that is that they hook it wacky style and they drop it up and down. There was a 10-pounder from a guy who watched the show, bought the wacky KO and rigged it wacky, and guess what? There's a 10-pounder. Boom, boom.
Well, you know what?
Amazing.
Chris Geiger was the guy, and he did it right there in Gainesville, and that fish weighed 10 pounds, Rick. So that new Bass Assassin KO worm in that June bug color is definitely a big fish catcher.
All right, speaking of that, I got 4 Sportsman's Adventure episodes to shoot for 2026. Jimmy, listen, July through November, I got some blocked off dates. What do you think we could catch during that time?
Oh my goodness, you're right in the heart of tarpon season, big king mackerel season, and then in the beginning of the mullet run, we get some fantastic action as well. And Rick, there's also something else that everybody else out there needs to know. Other than Sportsman's Adventures and Florida Insider Fishing Report, they need to know about the CCA Star Tournament because it's underway now, and they need to get signed up because there's some really cool stuff you can win. Anything from outboard motors to boats. Go to ccaflspar.com and you can make that happen. And it's from now through Labor Day.
Well, thanks for making that CCA mention happen because I totally forgot about it. Thanks for having my back, bub. But I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan Marine Systems hotspots. Inshore, the redfish on the eastern shoreline of the Mosquito Lagoon use Assassin 4-inch sea shads in drunk monkey or mudbug colors rigged on a weedless weighted worm hook for fish up to 28 inches. And then offshore, king mackerels outside of Sebastian Inlet use live blue runners on a wire stinger rig on the south end of Bethel Shoals Reef.
All right, well, if catching a permit in the Northeast region is on your list of things to do, Captain Tommy Derringer is here to teach you how to pivot. Hi, Tommy.
Come on, Tommy.
Hey, Bree. Yeah, I would tell you to call Rick and go catch one down there on the flat. but we do have some permit here. We really don't see too many of them here in the Northeast region. When we do, usually a bycatch when we're fishing for pompano. Permit and pompano fishing in my region, it's a beach fishing thing. When we do catch some nice African pompano offshore, that's one of my favorite fish to eat. And in fact, right now the guys are catching some big African pompano, or APs as they call them around here, offshore around the big structures, and like 120 foot and deeper. Now the permit that are caught here are usually caught along the beach. They're mixed in with the pompano during the pompano migration, and every so often there are a few caught on some of the nearshore wrecks, but that would be pretty rare. Now, I spoke to a few of my surf fishermen buddies this week, and they tell me they catch a permit or two every year while they're chasing those pompanos from the beach, and they're actually pretty big fish, sometimes in that 15 to even up to about 30-pound range. And there's a few things to look for when you're targeting those fish on the beach. The first thing is going to be clean water. The second thing is you want to make your cast, right around where the waves are breaking on the sandbar. Those waves going to crash and disturb the bottom and the bait. It's going to have everything moving around. That's where those fish are going to be feeding. And then the third is the bait. A lot of times when the pompano or those permit first hit kind of the north end of the region, a lot of the guys are using some small baits like small little shrimp. As they work their way south, they tend to switch it up and go to something like a sand flake. Now, a lot of beach anglers also have great success with a scented plastic like a gulp. And as far as a rig, most will use a pompano rig with either a white or yellow bead, along with a pretty small, like a 1/0 circle hook. Now, staying inshore, guys, man, the redfish bite has been awesome this week throughout the region. Everyone I spoke to this week had a great redfish report to give me. We have a low tide at first light this weekend, and the redfish are going to be on the feed as the sun comes up. Tide has been getting super low, so you'll be able to see them pretty easily. There's just a ton of small shrimp in the creeks and the flats right now, and those redfish, they're chasing them in some super skinny water. So much fun to see it happening. When the reds are up that shallow, they can be really spooky. So leading those fish by at least a few feet or even more if possible is definitely going to be the way to go to get the bite. The Saltwater Assassin Elite Shiner on a weedless hook, that's going to be my go-to in that situation almost every time. Now, you can use a weighted Saltwater Assassin weedless hook if you need some extra casting distance, but go as light as possible just so you can lessen the splash of the bait and have a less chance of spooking that fish. Now, of course, a live shrimp has been working really well, fishing the creek bends and the oyster bars on that low tide as well. I'm super happy to report that we've been catching a bunch of big redfish this year. And speaking of big redfish, I got a picture here. This is my daughter, Avon, and her best buddy, Everly, with a couple of nice redfish they doubled up on this past Memorial Day weekend after a nice little sandbar hang session that we had with the family.
Cool. All right, so give us some offshore. Take your time.
Yeah, man. Grouper. I've had some really good offshore grouper reports the last couple of weeks from Jacksonville to Flagler Beach. Seems like most of those bigger groupers are coming from around the ledge, pretty far out there. But I also have had some reports of some good groupers coming from some public number reefs. Live grunts, whole Boston mackerels, those have been the baits of choice. But if you can find some big pinfish, that would be a great option as well. And if you catch a big grouper, feel free to call me and drop off a couple fillets on your way home. Now, I've got another picture here, guys. This is my good buddy, James Drisdale, with a monster gag grouper that he caught offshore this past week. James always seems to catch some giant groupers. He's got it dialed in.
Yes, he does. All right. Tell me about the kingfish.
Yeah, man, the kingfish bite has turned on this week throughout the region. I even got out there and caught a couple of them. The pogies along the beach have been somewhat scattered, but, that's a big part of the equation for most kingfish anglers. Make sure you got a full tank of gas because you're going to need to run a little bit to find them on most days. Now, once you get baited up, the nearshore reefs have been loaded up with those schoolie-sized kings and some bigger ones as well. Slow troll those pogies around any kind of structure, especially those that are holding bait. 4 Mile and 9 Mile out of St. Augustine have been pretty consistent this week, especially early in the morning. And that should continue to be good this weekend. And I got one last picture here. This is my man, Brandon Malpin, with a nice kingfish he caught near 9 Mile Reef out of St. Augustine.
So, Tommy, I got a question for you. You're talking about the redfish and the big tides. Tell me a little bit about what those fish do at the top of the tide. What do you think they end up?
At the top of the tide, they're in the grass. I mean, we got not a flood tide happening right now, but big tides. So those fish are going to be in the grass or on the edge. So if you're at a high tide, use a gulp, something scented, the water's murky, put it right up on that grass line. That's where those redfish are going to be.
All right, man. Thank you for straightening us out on that. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the strike zone northeast hotspots. Our man Tommy says the redfish along the ICW banks and in the smaller creeks throughout the region on early morning low tide. Look for the reds chasing the small shrimp in the super skinny stuff, guys. And then offshore, kingfish on the nearshore wrecks and 10 to 20 miles out, troll around the structures holding schools for bait. Bree, the one thing I want to tell you is that we can actually, when you go in those creeks that Tommy's referring to, and that bite is on, when the water's low, you can hear them popping, the redfish.
I remember when I was up there.
Yeah.
I heard it.
So guys, listen, because you can follow your ears and
hunt them down.
Yeah, I can't hear nothing.
No, you can't. Anglers, get ready for the old school Kingfish Shootout on June 14th in St. Augustine. This family-friendly tournament has a unique format with limited boundaries, no bait penning or buying, and no checkout. The grand prize is a 21-foot yellowfin bay boat with a 200 HP Yamaha and a Mare Trail trailer valued at $125,000, and the early entry fee is only $250 through May 30th. First.
Yes.
For more details, visit oldschoolkingfish.com. We're casting into the Panhandle region when we come back for our final report with Captain Pat Deneen. But before we go, we want you to head to our website and check out our live studio audience dates coming up this season. Our next one is the funnest show of all, the kids show on June 18th. So go get signed up and we'll see you and your kiddos very soon.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Fenwick, feel everything. Phillips and Jordan, building critical infrastructure that matters. Castaway Coffee, one taste and you'll be hooked. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy, fishing for adventure. Berkeley Prospect Chrome, and Taco Marine, master the catch.
Today's Power Pole tip of the week is about the Power Pole Vision. Guys, this is the entertainment part of the Power Pole Vision. I love it. The reason why is I can take a traditional day of fishing, and now when I go to the sandbar, I have something to offer to all the people in my boat. Whether it's the kids watching one of their favorite TV shows, whether I want to stream something on Discovery Go, you want to watch Sportsman's Adventures, guess what? All those streaming devices can be shown right here on Vision. The other thing that you can do is you can play all your favorite music by simply go into Spotify or other music apps, and then mama's gonna be happy. If you want to order some food on the way home, guess what? Go to DoorDash, and guess what? You can order your favorite food and pick it up on the way home. If you want to know more about Vision, guys, go to powerpole.com, and that's today's Power Pole tip of the week. All those apps, and guess what? Amazon.
Amazon? Oh, we can order something on the
Yeah,
way home?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
That's going to make Mama real happy. All right, now let's wind the show down with Captain Pat Deneen in the Panhandle region, taking the same permit pivot approach as the Northeast region. What else we catching this weekend, Pat?
Hey, Bree, I tell you what, permit are caught in the Panhandle sometimes, usually by anglers targeting popping on the beach, but they're not caught enough to target. Surprisingly enough, it's not uncommon to see permit in Destin Harbor, especially late winter and early spring. So who knows, maybe they'll show up in better numbers. But moving on to what we do have, the red fishing has been good in the Panhandle. Many of them are being caught the conventional ways by live baiting the bridges and the docks, sight fishing the shallows in the bay, and also by working the grass flats and shorelines. But there's been a good bite going on in Pensacola, but with a little less oversight, both day and nighttime. And the bite's going on under the bridges, especially the 3 Mile Bridge, but to a lesser extent, the Garcon Point Bridge. Big bull redfish are pushing bait to the top, making for some exciting fishing, kind of like what they do in the wintertime over there in the open water bay, but they're up under the bridge. If you don't see them on top, use bottom machine to find them. Really aggressive, so really just about any lure will work, but a single hook swim bait is going to make for some easy releases. And if you use a multi-treble hook lure, take off all but the back hook, and even consider changing that back treble hook out for a big single hook. Those big redfish will swallow that lure, from tail first. That back hook will end up way back in the throat, so it makes for a lot easier release. And there's a photo sent in from Nolan Anderson. He's a young man from Pensacola, fishing with his dad Jake, and he's showing off a really beautiful redfish. One of many they caught night fishing under the Pensacola bridges, and Jake says that bite's been on fire. So that's pretty cool stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, man. Rick, staying inshore. That June's almost here, and we're still catching plenty of Spanish mackerel. And usually the springtime numbers are tapering off by now, but it doesn't seem to be the case this year. The most consistent bite has been along the beaches and in the inlets, especially on the incoming tide. You can troller cast a Christmas tree rig, bubble rigs with a McDonald's straw lure, jigs or smaller hard baits like the Berkeley Juke. But if you are going to choose to go the caster route, make sure you use a fast, erratic retrieve. You're going to have way better success. In the bays, the points and the roll downs are also providing some consistent Spanish mackerel action. There you want to anchor up and chum with live pilchers or pogies, and then use a long shake hook or a trace of 40-pound leader, and free line of bait or a float of bait under a cork. Spanish are running up to about 3 pounds. Moving offshore, red snapper season open for the Memorial Day weekend, and it'll open full-time on June 1st. We're setting us up for the longest snapper season we've had in many years. And many, many red snappers took a cold ride north last weekend as the weather was perfect with slick seas, light current, and a lot of people fishing for them. You're going to find the red snappers on structure in 60-plus feet of water, and really 2 main ways to fish for them. You can chum them up from the deep and free line them a hook bait. That's one of my favorite ways to catch them. You can use them, in weight spinning rods and no lead. It's a pretty good sport. Or you can send a bait down to their level on a Carolina rig, and either way, you're going to use 3/0 to 5/0 circle hooks, 30 to 50-pound leaders, live cigar minnow for bait. The sharks have been bad, so try to get your snapper to the boat in a timely manner. Otherwise, you can forfeit them to the sharks. There's a couple photos I've got for you. One I took Jerry and Stinny Campbell and their friends snapper fishing on the Out of Here opening day.
Nice.
The first pic is my mate Goody with a whole bunch of ladies showing off some of their catch of the snapper, so they had a fun time. And then my good buddy Steve Brandt from Milton he sent in a photo of a really, really nice snapper he caught fishing out of Mexico Beach. It's a good-looking fish. I mean, the angler could use a little bit of work, but snapper fishing has been good, Rick.
I love the dog admiring the catch.
Hey, Rick, finally offshore. It's been a few seasons we've had this good of king mackerel fishing. And near coastal offshore, the water is king green, which, it's kind of got that weird color to it. But they call it king green for a reason because the king mackerels are in it, and they're throughout the Panhandle. We lost plenty of snapper baits to kingfish this past weekend as they were eating our cigar minnows on the slip sinker rigs. But if you want to target the kings, you're going to find fish around concentrations of bait and around natural hard bottom areas. A lot of snapper fishermen are fly lining a bait, while they're bottom fishing, using a wire leader, picking up a few kings in the progress. But to really get them, slow troll some live cigar minnows and herrings on a stinger rig, or troll a flashy diving plug or a spoon. There's a photo that I got from Captain Alex Hare of Silver King Charters and Destin with a pretty typical rack of the catches of king mackerels Alex has been coming in with lately. I mean, a really nice rack of quality king mackerel. So that's
Thank you so
good
much.
action and good food.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Pat, for batting cleanup. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the heroes on the water, hot spots, inshore, beat the heat, and live bait. The mini lit docks in the panhandle for redfish, trout, mangrove snappers, free line shrimp, and small minnows rigged on the light leader with a small hook. And then offshore, head south out of Panama City and look for the mahis and the weed lines and the floaters. Cast live baits, jigs on the light to medium spinning rod for those mahis, man.
All right, the permit reports are in, and we've got another great weekend of catching ahead. But stay hooked for Seize the Social and find out what we're reeling in next week. We'll be right back.
All right.
Thanks so much. All right, next week we're talking red snapper, so make sure to tune in. I saw some of our captains had some of that up there today, so it should be a good show. But before you hit the water, let's dive into Seize the Social, your best Florida fishing moments from the Gulf to the Glades. Gentlemen, let's take a look.
All right.
Okay. So what do we got here?
Big
What's happening?
snook at nighttime.
Oh
my God. Are you kidding me?
Peanuts times 3. Did you see what it said there? You should have known. Has it happened to you? I can't say it's happened to me.
Yeah. Mahi fishing, it'll get the best of you.
Mahis do it to you. And you know, you take that little bonnet shark you're catching while you're bone fishing, and you turn him like this, and he's just the right length.
For
and
you.
You're holding him right here.
For you. All right. Remember, if you saw a reel you'd like to share, drop them in our DMs. But remember,
Bye, guys.
we'll see you next week. Happy birthday, Rick!
Thank you!